Welcome back. With us right now is the board president of United, John Parker.
No, GRF.
GRF. I was going to say the board president of John Parker. No, John Parker is here today, the board president of GRF. They had their meeting on Tuesday, and it was a rather long meeting, about 4 hours or so. And one of the big topics, of course, was the approval of the capital plan for 2018 and the budget. Welcome, sir. Nice to have you here.
Thank you, Ken. And the last time we were here, we were talking about, we had one of our shortest meetings ever. Well, we couldn't
you
say
made
that.
up for it.
We made up for it Tuesday. So, although it was not our longest meeting by far, but it was long. The one thing I want to mention is that as part of Brad Hudson's chair's remarks, we asked Kurt Ron, the director of landscape, to come in and give a report on the landscape. Since there's been so much criticism, I felt that it was important that the community understand some of the limitations the landscape department's been working under.
Right.
So Kurt gave a terrific presentation, which I understand is going to be on YouTube, and I think it's also going to be rebroadcast on the...
Right, we're showing it tonight. I forget the time, if somebody can give me the time, but I know we're showing it about 4 or 5 times coming up, and we took that and...
it's about 10 minutes.
6:30.
Okay, great.
6:30 this evening. Yeah.
So I was really glad that that happened, and I thought it was very well done. Then to get into the meat of the meeting, the 30-day period on the occupancy fee, we met that. So there is now an additional occupancy fee of $90 a month, which is up from $47 a month, and that's effective January 1st. And then one of our... If someone is delinquent in fees that have been assessed, one of the most effective tools that we have is to turn off television.
Right.
And along with the television comes the internet, because they use the same pipe.
Right.
And if you have village television service, that's included as well. So this is only for a person that is delinquent. And it's just ignoring the fact that they owe this community money. And what we did was, it used to be that the mutual take an action, and then a month later it would come to GRF and we would take action. Well, we were able, with the discussion of all the attorneys and looking at everything, the contracts, the bylaws, we are now able to empower the mutual to suspend. And what that will do is shorten the period of time between when the fine is levied and you pay the piper.
Right, right.
And so that I think is something that's going to help a lot.
I know part of that discussion where people were going, well, what if somebody's delinquent and they're really having a hard time? And I know you commented, we look at everything and see what can be done. In other words, they're maybe having a financial difficulty at the point they're not doing it to be, I'm just not going to pay. But as you have said, as the boards have said, we look at everything and see how we can alleviate the problem, payments or things like that.
But we have other, there's other sources, which means that, but most of the cases that we deal with, people simply ignore.
Yeah. Right.
And sometimes, we've had situations where people are in arrears for a couple of years.
Wow.
So it's almost thumbing your nose at somebody. It's not financial difficulty.
And that's not fair to everyone else who pays.
Okay. Yeah. So we took care of that, and then we did approve the 2018 budget, and that comes in 3 little segments, and you approve each segment. But I think what people will be most interested in is that the portion of their monthly assessment that is GRF will be $198.57.
Okay.
And that's pretty even to what it's been in the past. Not much of a change there. Then we also passed a resolution to increase the transfer fee, the trust facility fee, from $2,500 to $5,000. And this is when a person buys a new unit. That is when this cost comes into it. It does not affect existing residents.
Okay.
And so one of the reasons we did this is that this was a source of funds that is the least, it affects our existing residents the least. And yet it helps us. When we made the decision to do this, it was a difference of about $5 a month in what we would have had to deal with in assessments.
Okay.
So it affected the budget that much. We did increase the user fee for the RV lot.
Yes.
And there were many RV leasees who expressed their opinions. And we started, both committees that looked at this before it came to the board actually wanted it to be 400.
Right.
And so we took it to 320. And there had been no raise in the fee for 10 years. And while we're not supposed to compare to the outside, if anybody were to make that comparison, there's no relation to what's going on outside the walls and inside the walls in terms of price.
Right.
The other thing is that we're, like many things in the community, some things have been neglected for a long time and ignored. And part of the reason for the increased lease fee is so we can do a better job.
Yeah.
And and that does not happen until January 2018. One of the other things we did was we took care of some housekeeping. There was a sidewalk that's actually the Willows that now we're going to take care of. That's, some people don't even know the Willows exist.
Right.
But
It's what gate is that? Is it 10?
Before 10.
Okay. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's on Santa Maria.
Yeah, it's off of Santa Maria.
And I think a lot of people probably think it's part of the community because it blends so much in.
And then the other thing that came up, we are adding a channel to our lineup, and it's the jewelry channel. And it's kind of a QVC type thing for jewelry. And at no cost to the community. It's potentially a revenue source, not a big one.
Right.
But it's not a cost. It's just,
Yeah.
And one of the things that I thought, we teach jewelry making, so it's a source of inspiration for people who are making and designing jewelry. So those were the biggies in the meeting. And then, in a spirit of openness, we also had yesterday the CAC Community Activities Committee, and as part of our budget, we did plan into the budget that we would increase the transfer fee. We did plan into the budget that we would increase the RV fee, but we also planned into the budget that we would increase the golf fee and that we would increase some of the room rental ratings. So the first step of that is that it goes to the CAC community.
Right.
That committee yesterday approved those increases.
Okay.
And so that will be at the GRF meeting, October meeting.
Okay. Do you know those increases, or
do.
are you still?
No,
okay.
I know them.
All right.
And this is the 27-hole golf courses. A 9-hole is currently $8, and am I right? No, the fee will be $8. Then we have created a new category, which is a non-member occupant. And so that's going to be a fee between a guest and a resident, an owner occupant.
Okay.
And so that for 9 holes will be $13, and the guest fee remains the same at $18. For 18 holes of golf, a member will now pay $13, and a non-member occupant will be $24, and the guest will remain at $35. We've eliminated the twilight fee category, and for the par 3, currently 9 holes, it will be $5 for 9 holes, $6 for non-member occupant, and $7 for guest. And The other thing that's kind of exciting is that we will have a new director of golf in about 2.5 weeks.
Okay.
The selection process is over, and the candidate has been selected, and the people that were on the selection committee, I was not, were very excited. We had 2 really strong candidates, and it was almost difficult to choose between, but they're quite excited about that.
I can't wait to meet the person.
Yes.
And you know, the golf fees, you mentioned 18 holes for $13. I was just thinking, I don't think you can go to miniature golf for $13 anymore. So that's a really great rate.
It is a great rate, but you know, and I have to say is that normally if we even think about raising the golf any amount, we usually have rooms full of golfers.
Right.
But I really have to compliment the men's golf group in particular. I think out of respect for the recent passing of Bill Blaine, they just decided we'll deal with it.
Yeah.
And so that was appreciated, and I also think it's a total show of respect for a man that you know is missed.
Yeah.
You know, he was a great guy.
Yeah, he was. So that will come up for a vote in the October meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
And I'm mentioning it so that if somebody has strong feelings,
right,
they, you know, it's not cast in stone yet, but I think most people will support it.
Yeah.
And as far as the room reservation, that's been another, you know,
ongoing for years. Yes.
And what the main emphasis on the room reservation is to try and have the user group be appropriate to the facility. And we have had, you know, groups. Brad mentioned yesterday that he and Brian Gruner went over to Clubhouse 5, and that huge clubhouse. There were eight people in a circle in the middle of the room. And maybe that's not the best group for that facility. So there will be a lot more effort on the part of recreation to put the group into an appropriate venue so that the venue is available for the groups that need the bigger space. The other thing that's come from staff is that for some of the rooms now there'll be a minimum 4-hour use.
Oh, okay.
And what happens is you take something like Clubhouse 2, and if you have 2-hour rentals, and each group has a different setup, staff has got to get in and out of there and change it all around in a very short period of time. And so once again, it's more appropriate that you reserve those larger spaces for those special functions, and you give the staff the time to do the kind of job that they want to do. Do it right, do it well,
and have the time to do it.
Make sure everything's done correctly. So I think it's just putting some logic and common sense into some of the room use. And of course it means change, and some of our groups are rather, you know, we've used this for 20 years, but maybe their group's composition has changed a little bit. So,
so does that mean somebody who maybe used that room for 2 hours, said we're only going to be there for 2 hours, their block time will be 4 hours, and they will pay for that 4 hours? Okay. And just for the reasons you said.
And maybe they're going to find that another facility, if they're only using it for 2 hours, where you can reserve it for 2 hours, makes more sense.
Okay.
It's the bigger spaces where there's, to set it up properly, to make sure the previous user, that you've got time to check that they did the things they were supposed to do. And that sort of thing. It's all about trying to have better management and better use of the facilities. So those 2 items, the room rental, and it only affects a few rooms. It doesn't affect everything. It's not a blanket. And Brian Gruner and his staff are continuing to work on the whole procedure and policies for recreation. They've taken our policies and procedures from 24 pages, and they're getting it down to 13. And they're also looking at the forms that people use to make those a little more specific to the venue.
All right, very good.
It's all good.
One question, and I don't know, I saw just the other day, I forget what day it was, I have it listed here, there was the ad hoc committee for the Performing Arts Center.
I'm really glad you brought that up. What happened is on Wednesday afternoon, the architects, SVA, came and gave us a presentation, and what they had done is they had spent 4 days meeting with everybody who used Clubhouse 3. Each user group was invited to come to a little workshop and give their thoughts about the Performing Arts Center. So what they did is they took all of that input and they did a presentation on how they're beginning to put it together.
Okay.
And I feel really good about the selection of this firm, because I think they're well qualified in their experience with performing arts facilities. And it is a collaborative process. So the next step for the ad hoc committee is we're going to take all the comments that were made on Wednesday and sort of formalize them, get those back to the architect very quickly, so that the next step is they start incorporating in a more specific manner, that we give them clear direction based on what they presented.
At this point, have they gotten into the structure itself, the roof?
Well, what they've done, if in design sometimes we do things that are called bubble diagrams, and they almost did a bubble diagram of the building. So, okay, this is where ideally rehearsal would be. This is the stage. These are the entrances. These, you know, without getting too specific. And the next step will start getting more specific.
Okay. All right. Look forward to hearing more about that.
Great.
All right. Anything else? I know you have to move on.
Yes. I actually am going downstairs to work out. And,
Okay.
And I'm trying to honor that.
All right. Very good. I know I saw you come into there the other day bright and early.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate it. We'll see you next time. And folks, that GRF meeting replay will be shown on Wednesday and at 6 o'clock. And I think it was like 4 hours and 1 minute or something like that.
And I think only 3 hours is televised, so that if you go on Granicus, which is on the new website, the whole meeting is on there, I believe.
Yeah, we replay the whole meeting though.
Okay.
Yeah, we do.
All right.
So that'll be there. All right, we'll be back. Yeah, Performing Arts Center.